Hello there, it's Karen here again, scrapbooking this beautiful photo of my daughter and her baby, and using the Dear Lizzy Stargazer collection, just a few pieces that I bought, and I've just picked out this paper as my backing paper. And while that, I've just covered it in clear gesso, so while it's drying, I'm going to be working on this cut file, the heart cut file, a heart wreath. And I was going through my scrapbooks looking for some bits of paper that would back this cut file, and I found a piece of acetate. So I had this bright idea of doing a shaker pocket with some sequins. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and I did make it work, but I had to cut out an awful lot of the process from this video because it took me ages to get the whole thing to stick. So I've cut out one heart, and I'm just using that piece of paper so I can see what I'm doing, because I couldn't see it very clearly on the glass mat. Making sure it's the right size, and then I'm going to cut another one so that I've got a double layer of acetate, and then the idea is that I have the sequins in between, which does work out in the end. But I've seen this done on YouTube videos a few times, and they always, people who I've seen do always make it look really easy, but I did not find it easy. It's not something I've done very often, and I always struggle to get the whole thing to work and to stick. But undaunted, I've carried on. I've used my slick writer just to cut round, to write round the shape, and I'm sticking on the first piece of acetate here with some glue. And the idea is that I've got one piece which is which will work as the front piece, and then I've got the backing piece there, you can see, just waiting to be stuck to it. And I'm just going to put a few little, they're quite tiny sequins. The colours I've picked out of the sequins is the same colours I've picked out in the papers, is some pinks and the pale blues and some bits of white. So I'm just laying them on the heart there, thinking, well, if I put enough glue on the other heart and just stick it on, that'll work. Well, it didn't really work that well, but I persevered, and I did get there in the end. They kept popping out and I had to keep sticking it down. I did end up having to use a couple of staples with my tiny attacher just to make sure it stayed in place, but it did in the end. And that's I think you can see there, that's the final version, which I had to cut out, as I say, quite a lot of fiddling about with the glue. And there's my pile of papers. As you can see, pinks and teals and minty colours are what I picked out for backing this cut file. I'm only going to back the half that's going to be on show, because the right hand side will be covered by my photograph. So I don't back all of it, I just back that part on the left. So I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing, just the first one really. And then by the magic of video, there it is done. I think it looks really pretty. And that's where my photograph is going to go. So it's going to tuck in to those hearts and cover up half of them. And then I'm going to, just before I go any further, I'm going to back the photograph with some of this lovely good old Hip Kit tissue paper, which is such a pretty colour and goes really well. And the floral piece is a serviette that I bought. I've got a pack of serviettes. It's really pretty, and I think that the colours in that go quite well as well. So I'm going to use those two layers, and then a couple of sheets, as you see, of the Dear Lizzy paper, which also has the pinks and the blues in. And so I've cut the piece of tissue and the serviette to size, and now I'm just measuring it up with the two pieces of cardstock. And I've also backed it with some foam, and now I'm putting some foam on the cut file as well, so that it'll all pop up, because I will be doing some mixed media behind all this. So I'm going to just cutting out my bits of foam to stick to the hearts. So the hearts that have been backed are going to have some bigger pieces of foam, and the open hearts will have to have some little tiny strips of foam tape, which I will add later. And I put some foam on the back of the photograph so that it all pops up nicely, and sits quite levelly, because I had to put the foam so it's all on one level. And I've trimmed down my cardstock a little bit, and I'm just get my my edger to ruffle up the edges, And then I'm going to stick it to some white cardstock. As you see, it's been stuck to some white cardstock to give it a little bit more strength. And I'm just ruffling up the edges, doing a little bit of torn detail at the top there, and just sort of rolling it back a little bit. I could have done more of this torn detail, but I don't like to do too much. I think I wanted the focus to be very much on the photograph and on all the embellishments in the middle. So I just tore it a little bit and then folded that corner over. And that's all I did with that. And now I'm going to come into the mixed media part. I've got a nice heart mask. Don't know where it came from. I've had it a while. Haven't used it very much yet though. Some modelling paste, which I'm going to whiten up with some white acrylic, as I've been doing lately, to make it hold its colour. And just mixing those two together, and then I'm going to do a spray of hearts going across the page, top right down to bottom left. I'm just trying to angle it across. So there'll be a few hearts showing here and there, either side of the photograph and the cut file, and there's be a few inside the cut file as well. That's what I wanted to have on show. I'm just tidying up those bits around the edge where I've not quite got the hearts complete. I'm just getting rid of those little odd bits. There we are. That's the hearts all the way down the page. As you see, it shows, some of it shows inside the cut file, and then there's a nice little bit either side. Let's try, and just trying it out with the photograph is now all backed with all the papers, as you see. So that's all how it's going to fit on there. I had a stamp set from I think it's One Canoe to Twilight. I bought a few bits from that collection, and it was a nice stamp set, and it had the word love on it. So I thought I'd use that. Just going to put it inside the cut file, and I'm going to use it again in another place a little bit later on, because this is very much a page about love. As you can see, my daughter is looking blissfully happy, cuddling her little baby, and that's pretty much how she is most of the time. She's loving being a mum. And so I'm just taking off all the backing paper. This was some little foam strips that I've managed to get some narrow ones that fit onto those heart shapes, and then I've put glue on the other foam, the bigger pieces of foam. So that's all stuck down now. I actually wish I'd put it not quite as high on the page because it's a bit too close to that torn piece, but once I'd committed, it was too late to move it, so I left it there. And I'm just going to stick down the photograph now on all the bits of foam where the either side of the cut file, so that it's on the same level. There we are. Looks lovely. I mean, it looks quite nice as it is, but I'd already decided, as this is ultimately going to go into one of those deep frames. I wanted to use some more flowers, as I've done before with some of these. Because this is actually, the finished item is now on my wall in my scrap room in a frame and looking rather nice. So I've got these little crocheted flowers that I had a little pack of them. I think I went to a retreat, and that was one of in our goodie bag. I had them a while, but the colours was just so perfect, with the blue and the pink and the cream. So I thought they would make a nice little extra touch with the other flowers. And I also had some pearly brads, which were the perfect colours to go in the middle. So I've put a brad in the middle of each of the little flowers, and I'm going to fix those on in a moment. But in the meantime, I'm just picking out some more Prima flowers. That big coral one, beautiful though it is, it's much too dominant on this page, so that will not stay there. So I'm just playing around at the moment, just trying to see how they look, tucking them around, where I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put the flowers. I keep changing my mind because it almost seems like it's all flowers and you can't see much else. So I do go a bit berserk with the flowers to start with, but then I do tone it down a bit, and I don't put quite as many on in the end. But I am just playing around with them at the moment, seeing how they look, and they are really beautiful, these flowers. It's hard to restrain myself a bit when I'm using them, because the colours are so pretty. But I didn't really want them to be quite as bold as that. I didn't want them to dominate the layout quite as much as that. This is still not the final configuration of flowers, but that was where I was, where I decided to stop for that moment. And I'm now putting the little crochet flowers, making the hole in the layout background so I can poke the brads through. In fact, this one ends up being moved after a while, but you don't really see where the hole was. I think I'll cover it with a sequin later on. So I'm just putting the all the flowers that are going to be fixed with the brad. I'm putting those in now. So I think that cream one is the only one I do end up moving. I'm just putting the little pink one down here by the pink heart. There we are. And I think the final, I'm not sure, I don't think I fixed the fourth one down at this moment. That might have to be, that gets fixed later on. So a few more flowers just been laid in place to decide if that's where I want them. I still haven't stuck them down. I'm still trying to find what I want. Dipping into my little stash of cream flowers now, seeing if I want to just, they're tight, much smaller flowers, so they're just tucking those in to fill the spaces. And I've got some really tiny little ones, they're little sprays of tiny flowers in lots of different colours, and I'm just cutting those off, and I'm just going to tuck those around as well, little pink ones, those ones. I've got those in a variety of colours, and they just have to be cut free and stuck down, and they just poke in between the bigger flowers. I'm still just trying to decide where I want my flowers. I'm still thinking it's a bit top heavy across the top there. I'm not going to have quite as many across the top of the photograph. There we are. I've taken them all off again because I realised I wanted to put a little bit of stamping in the background with this script stamp that I've got from Kaisercraft. So I'm just doing a little bit of scripty stamping just here and there around the layout. I think it just gives it a little bit of an interesting look. I've seen a lot of people do this and I really like it, and especially when it's on top of a bit of mixed media, it just makes it look a bit more interesting, I think, to have that little bit of extra stamping on in the background. So before I commit to my flowers, I'm just doing that around the page. And there's I'm trying to find a place to put the word love again. I'm just trying to find the right spot, and I've decided to tuck it in there in that left hand corner of the photograph, just sticking it in, just sort of just so it's poking out from the flowers. Now I'm finally excuse me, finally committed to the flowers that I'm going to use, and I have started sticking them down now. In fact, I think those ones on the left are stuck down, and I'm just adding these tiny little ones in again. It's like tiny little pink flowers, just poking them in here and there to finish the layout. And I've decided to put that final little doily just in that corner, tucking it behind the heart. And I've decided that's the only flower I'm going to have there. I think that's enough. I found it just looked too top heavy to have a load of flowers across the top of the layout, or across the top of the photograph. But there was a bit of a blank corner, blank space, but under that heart, so I've just put that one in there. And now I'm deciding on my title. I could not decide what to call it, so I looked at this sheet. This is actually the thicker's called High Five. I thought I'd have a look, see if there's anything that would work that I could use as a title, and I've decided to go for Oh So Happy, because that pretty much says it all. And I have to fiddle around a bit trying to decide where it's going to fit. I could have just left it at happy, but I think the oh so really was necessary. It just explains how she was feeling. I think she does look really happy, and I just needed to find the right placement for the words. There we are, I've got it placed in, and my camera had cut out and I didn't realise, so I didn't film myself putting all the sequins around, but I mean that's they're all fairly obviously just dotted around there. So there we go. I really love this layout. Looks beautiful on my wall. So thank you for joining me yet again, and do join me again soon. Goodbye.